Sanjay, you're a hell of a difficult act to follow. That was the macro. I'm going to take you through the micro now of how, indeed, why we create a festival. Okay, Generation Speed. What is it? Why is it? Why did we do it? Three questions, really. The first is why. Why do you do a festival in the first place? The second question is how. How do you put it together? The third question is what exactly is it when it ends up? So why Generation Speed? Well, 13 years ago we launched India Bike Week. Now India Bike Week is today Asia's largest motorbike festival. It's 25,000 plus motorbikers from all over India converging in Goa and having one hell of a party for 2-3 days. We learned many fundamental lessons through that festival. The first of which, as you can see, it's become really quite big. The first of which was that India Bike Week, this has got a life of its own. India Bike Week exists because of the people that come to it. I don't know how to press pause on this. India Bike Week exists because of the people that come to it. It's about community. It's about the bikers themselves. And it's about us engaging with them and making sure that they themselves feel that they own the festival. The lesson we learned was that, number one. The second lesson we learned was that it takes time to create. Those lessons we took into Generation Speed. Now, why Generation Speed? Scale, size, depth, the business of auto. 3,000 crores are spent advertising cars against 1,900 crores on bikes. I'm talking about bikes across all bike categories. Now, of course, India Bike Week doesn't really cater to commuter bikes. It's 350cc plus. So actually, it's probably about 3,000 crores versus 400 or 500 crores. In terms of the numbers of cars and bikes sold, 1.1 million 350cc motorbikes versus 4.3 million cars sold in 2024. So obviously the opportunity's there, right? We did India Bike Week, we got 25,000 people there in 2024, and for years we thought we must do this for cars. Now, why did we want to do it for cars? One was, of course, the size. The second one, I wish there was a pause button on this. The second one was that cars are different. Auto is different from motorbikes. To be on a motorbike, you have to be of a certain age. Doesn't matter whether you're a guy or a girl, but you do have to be of a certain age. And it doesn't really lend itself to kids, for example. Let's go back. Yes, so cars. The thing about cars, of course, is not just the speed, it's also about the design, and it's about the legacy, and it's about the heritage. So the stories around cars are rich, interesting, and appeal across all demographics. The other point about cars, of course, is that they're undergoing one of the greatest industrial transformations that we've seen in the last 100 years. You have EVs, you have batteries, you have self-driving. So the idea of creating a car festival seemed to make absolute sense. In India, we have one of the greatest legacies of vintage and classic cars in the world. And I know this because we did the Cartier Travel with Style Concours for many years. And that allied to the fact that we have a burgeoning auto sports scene as well as an enormous industry just lends itself very easily to doing this. Next slide, please. The third point, of course, is what we learned from India Bike Week, which is that it is about community, it is about culture, but most importantly, it is about surfing along with the passion of the people that are involved in this scene. Next slide, please. And the next slide. This has stopped working, by the way, so my apologies. Next slide, please. Next slide. So how did we go about doing it? Next. The first thing we did is we went, for about a year, we went into India. Next slide, please. And reached out to communities involved in the car scene really across the country. Next. So if you look at the top right there, you'll see that our guys, and girls in fact, drove just over 26,000 kilometers across India, engaging with people. We went to 12 separate events. We did 165 collaborations with everyone from autosport guys to tuners to mechanics to collectors. Next slide, please. And over the course of that year, we generated, this is even, by the way, before the festival had actually taken place, before, in fact, we'd even announced the festival. We generated well over 30,000 plus entries, mainly through our Instagram and our social media. Next slide, please. By the time the festival happened, purely organically, so we didn't pay for any of this, we had 60,000 followers, over 462,000 interactions, 24 million plus views. Next slide, please. And it was a very concerted effort to create heroes on our social media that people would then connect with, repost, follow, and even meet. And that even meet point is really important. Next, please. These are just some of them. Next. This is an important slide because social media is one thing. A social media can't create an event, and it certainly can't create a brand new festival. That number, 10,000, is extremely important in this context. There's a famous American writer called Malcolm Gladwell, and he came up with this number of 10,000 hours, is that's how much practice it takes to become world-class at anything. It was the Beatles in Hamburg playing 10,000 hours in strip clubs that made them into the band they were before they'd even launched their first record. 10,000 is also what we think were the number of phone calls, meetings, emails that we sent over the course of that year in setting up Generation Speed. Next slide. And that setup was done by the 70MG crew in Mumbai. Next slide, please. Who then got involved, obviously, in planning the event. Now, we do these festivals for several reasons. One, like I said before, is legacy. Another really good reason that we do these festivals is that our people at 70, and there's over 250 of them, become immensely proud of what we've achieved and what we own. For me personally, that's one of the most important reasons why we get involved in the IPR space. And you probably can't read it, but the Aviza Nazar was this young kid that joined us, and this was her LinkedIn post after the festival. She absolutely adored it from start to finish. Next slide, please. This is us all being happy at the end. This is the sort of thing that, as an event manager, or a guy that owns an event company, that money cannot buy. Next slide. So what was it, finally? What was Generation Speed? Next. We started with the premise that it would be the greatest weekend of your kid's life, or the greatest weekend of your kid's year. And we liked that idea, right? There's not many events like that in India. Next slide. And then we thought, what would be the core of it? How do we create it so that every year it can get better and better and better? The Jaipur Literary Festival, as we know, gets better and better and better every year because of the quality of the people that speak at it. For us, it's the quality of the cars and bikes smashing down that track against each other. Next slide. And as you can see here, next, we did have 250 genuinely of India's greatest cars and bikes. Next. So the numbers. How did this all pan out in the end? Bearing in mind it was the first year of the festival, we were expecting about 4,000 people to turn up. The venue's awful. We couldn't get a great venue. The venue was Ambi Valley, about 2.5 hours east of Mumbai. But in fact, just over 14,500 people showed up. We had 197 exhibitors, 180 press showed up, and that number of experiences at the festival, there were 19 separate events happening within the festival, including, of course, the main track. Next slide. The sort of coverage we got, Well, basically, it proved the point that cars are bigger than bikes, because after 13 years of India Bike Week, these are the sort of numbers we get for India Bike Week. This is the first year of Generation Speed. Next. And the ad value, of course. Lots and lots of social media, lots and lots of press, lots and lots of television, even national news. Next. So, what about the money? Right? We're all interested in the money. Like I said before, when I was up on stage, I'm not very good at selling sponsorship. And as you can see from the next slide, I think it's the next slide, go to the next slide, you'll see here a very interesting thing, is that while we did have sponsors, we didn't have a single car company. Now, we knew a year and a half ago that we were not going to get a single car company. Because we work with car companies, we work with Audi, we work with Mercedes, we work with MG, etc. And we know how their minds function, we know how deeply, deeply conservative they are. And we also know that while they pay lip service to the idea of community and touch point and engagement and shoulder-to-shoulder connection, fundamentally when it comes down to it, they're not that keen on it, frankly. They'd rather be in their five-star hotel room, launching their car, and then go back home. We also know that a lot of the things they do in terms of how they advertise and market themselves aren't particularly working very well. And we also know that most of the demographic they're selling to, they're not watching television, they're certainly not reading newspapers or magazines. They're connecting with each other through social media, they're connecting each other through experiences, live experiences. So one of the things that we are 100% committed to and convinced about is that over the course of the next 5-10 years, this slide you're seeing here will have upwards of 10 car companies involved. It is exactly the same story that we went through with India Bike Week, and this was one of the stories we learned through India Bike Week. It's a bit like that Kevin Costner Field of Dreams thing, which is that you build it, and eventually they will come. And that's what we've done with Generation Speed. Thankfully, because we're quite good at what we do, we didn't lose a lot of money, or the other way of looking at it, I suppose, is that we didn't invest a lot of money. What we invested was exactly what our business plan envisaged or predicted that we would invest. It didn't break the bank. And again, frankly, and I'll be honest about this, unlike India Bike Week, which has seen a slow, steady 15% incremental growth in revenue and profitability over 13 years, we're looking at an exponential growth for Generation Speed because, well, it's cars, isn't it? And the point about Generation Speed, of course, exactly like the point about India Bike Week, is that it had never happened before, which indeed is why the car companies said no this year. They all sent people, by the way. I mean, we had to provide hotel rooms and hospitality to marketing directors and CMOs and even CEOs of about 12 car companies. They all wanted to see it, but not one of them wanted to get involved in year one. Understandably, we understood it. We got no issues with it. Let's go to the next slide. Go to the next slide. The other major point about, well, certainly the way I look at doing these big, new festivals, these IPR, these community-based projects, I mentioned before again that it was about legacy. You know, I want to leave a legacy to India. I'm about 2/3 of the way through it. One, of course, is India Bike Week. The second is Generation Speed. There's the Kalagoda Art Festival in Mumbai. And there's one more, which I'm working on currently. I want to hand that over to India, and I want those to run for years, and I want them to go to Saudi Arabia and Dubai and the UK and America. But most importantly, next slide, please. Most importantly for us is that it belongs to them, to these guys. Our festivals, we don't own them. Like, we genuinely don't feel that we own them. We don't put ourselves front, right, and center. We don't use it to massage our own egos. The success of India Bike Week and the future success of Generation Speed is entirely predicated on the people that come to both of those festivals feeling like it is their festival. India Bike Week, that's 100% what it is. Guys, can you roll the film? Do you have the film? Is that a thumbs up? Okay, so this was meant to be played at the start of this deck, so it would give you some sort of context. It's the after movie of Generation Speed. What I want you to sort of look at is the looks on people's faces who are at the festival and what they're saying, right? Because we do this out of our own passion, because this is what we do. They come to it because of their passion, and it's their passion which, frankly, is irreplaceable. That's what we do, is we surf along their passion. Roll the film. It's only a minute long. Here we go. Welcome to the chaos and charm of India's premier motoring festival. Welcome to Generation Speed 2025. Hi there, I'm Martin da Costa, aged 55, possibly semi-retired, but definitely not having a midlife crisis. Well, okay, maybe a stylish word. I believe cars are about connection, and not just combustion. Generation Speed was more than just engines and exhaust. It was one part car show, many parts cult gathering. It was a celebration of engineering, community, nostalgia, and the very greatest cars and bikes in India. 250 of India's greatest cars came smashing down that track in front of 15,000 fans. This year's lineup, a full-throttle celebration of speed, style, and future tech. There were talks from engineers, designers, mechanics, and that one guy who lives in a van who said to me, "This is where India's car culture comes up." From reels to real talk, Generation Speed broke the algorithm and made headlines. The future of fast is here. Fast is evolving, cleaner, smarter. A car culture where everyone's included. The road ahead is lit, literally. Generation Speed created stories. The flag dropped, but the ride never ended. Generation Speed is on its way to becoming India's greatest motoring festival. So there we go, ladies and gentlemen, Generation Speed. Thank you very much indeed. Sorry about all the mess-ups with the deck.